Let's go.
Welcome to the show. Today's topic, lifting as we climb. We are pleased to introduce our honored guest, Dr. Nicole Vick. Dr. Vick is a public health professional, educator, civic leader, author, and image consultant with over 20 years of experience improving health in underserved Los Angeles communities. She serves on the boards of 4 public health organizations and chaired the Health Commission for the City of Los Angeles for 2 years. With 15 years of teaching experience, Dr. Vick brings a unique blend of public health and social justice to her students. She has taught at Occidental College, California State University, Los Angeles, Ashford University, and University of Phoenix. Dr. Vick holds a Doctor of Education degree in Organizational Change and Leadership, a Master's degree in Public Health, and a Bachelor's degree in Public Policy and Management. She has authored 2 books, including Pushing Through, Finding the Light in Every Lesson, and contributes to 2 anthologies. She also hosts a weekly podcast discussing critical issues in the Black community from a public health and social justice perspective. Listeners and viewers, here and at home, please welcome our host, Dr. Whitty.
Hey.
Oh, wow. So excited to be here. I tell you, we've been having some trouble, but we made it. Thank you, Dr. Vick, for coming and showing and coming through on today. Welcome to DrWhitty Today. How are you feeling?
I am so excited to be here with you. Thank you for inviting me. I was listening to, I'm like, stop reading that bio now. That's too much. But I'm happy to be here with you.
All right. Hey, we gotta tell it like it is, right? When people do great things, it deserves to be spread, right? Because after all, when people do bad, people spread it, right? So we may as well do the opposite. When a person does good, let's make that go viral, right?
Exactly.
All right. So I'm Dr. Whitty. I'm thrilled to be here with everybody today. Thank you for joining into this episode. This episode, as you heard, is talking about lifting as we climb, which is an essential conversation that we have to have to help keep the community together through mutual support. And this is a much needed conversation. So I'm glad, Dr. Vick, that you chose to be a part of it. She's going to be incredible, no doubt. And so before we get started, I want to say, Dr. Vick, as you went through your day today, give us something of encouragement that you experienced today before we go forward.
Wow. You know what? Today has been a real chill day. So I don't know, but I guess I'll say this. The fact that I'm living and breathing and able to be in this space with you to share this whole concept of lifting as we climb, I think is something that is so very important to me. And we'll talk more and more about that. But I guess one thing that just jumped into my head, I have an intern coming in. And I think having someone in school that you're getting ready to try to help, mold and nurture and help them kind of move up the ladder is something that, that kind of touched my heart, and I'm always excited to do. So I think, yeah, I'll just mention that because that's always an exciting thing for me. I love the kids. Even if the kids is 21, I love them. I love the kids.
All right. That's great. That is great. I just want to say, I don't know if you can see it. I got my little shirt here that says "Stop Police Brutality," and I just put that. I was thinking about what I wanted to wear today, and when I saw that, I had to put it on because I just thought about all the police brutality that's going around, and I'm thinking about the latest, I would say, victim that I unfortunately went to sleep with that on my mind and heart. But it was a young man that was asleep in his vehicle, and he had a registered weapon on his lap because the neighborhood he was in, he fell asleep. Somebody made a phone call about somebody being asleep, and they reported that the person, I guess, had ran into a building or something like that. So, but what disturbed me was when they showed the law enforcement approaching the vehicle, they never that I saw approach the vehicle and tried to wake the person, in a calm sort of manner. And the only thing that I saw was they had all their gear, their flashlights, and it was really like rush, aggressive, and basically startled the person. And then, but what was really disturbing was that when the person woke up, he obviously was startled and he rolled the window down. And
Right.
the cop there at the window stuck his gun in his face and was like, don't move something. He was like, I'll shoot you in your expletive face. And the guy, I guess he was startled because he grabbed the gun to move it out of his face. And when he did that, the guy shot him. And then all the other officers started firing. I think they shot over 10 rounds. And basically they killed him. So that's
Mm.
pretty to me. So I just had to put this on because I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted with the excuses that law enforcement are given for um, actions. So I
Yeah.
was praying
Very,
to him, family, and friends. Go ahead.
yeah, very devastating. And I feel like something like that happened out here a few years ago, similar, where someone was sleeping, and somehow they ended up, being assaulted or shot or killed in some way. I know we have to do better with law enforcement. They are too reactive. I think if anybody was asleep, and that happened, yeah, they would be startled and like even thinking, am I dreaming? Like, what is happening? It's like give people a little bit of some grace, give them a second to sleep, right? So yeah, that's very unfortunate. And my thoughts are with the families, because I think one of the things, so again, I'm a public health professional. One of the things that we talk about when we talk about violence is it is devastating to lose someone, but what we don't think about are the families around that person that also suffer. They weren't there. They weren't harmed per se, but they still suffer the trauma of what happened to the person that their loved one. And that goes years and years after the incident. So, it's not just a one person thing, it's a community level issue, and it affects all of us one way or another.
Exactly. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and move on from that, but we just want you out there to, just keep our these victims that are coming out, their family, their loved ones, their friends, just keep them in your prayers. And also just pray for our law enforcement departments because it is much needed. So without further ado, we're going to get into the topic tonight, which is lifting as we climb. I remember when Dr. Vick gave me that subject, and I said, "Oh, that sounds like a great one. I know it's going to be great, so I can't wait to get into it." So I'm going to start off with some questions, Dr. Vick, if that's okay. The first one I want to ask you is, what does the phrase rise and climb signify to you on a personal level?
Honestly, it's my personal philosophy. Like, I honestly feel like lifting as we climb is my personal obligation and responsibility as a Black woman to make sure that the people that come after me get all the information. We not gatekeeping in 2024 or beyond. Like, the other day I was in a group on Facebook, and someone said, I wish that all of these older women in public health would be nicer to us and help us instead of being so negative. And I was like, I am so glad that that is not my ministry. Like, I'm gonna tell you everything I know because it's already hard, right? To me, that's the basis. Life is already hard enough. If I've already gone further ahead of you and I've already seen what's coming, why wouldn't I turn around and let you know, don't walk that way, walk the other way? Or, hey, this is how you're going to have to walk through this and figure this out. So to me, again, it's just literally how I live my life. Like, I'm not going to leave you hanging. because too many people have been left hanging, and it doesn't benefit us as a culture. And it's just is not the thing to do.
Exactly. As you was talking, it just made me think of the old saying where some people say you learn from experience, but I like the one that says you can learn from other people's experience. So that's what came to mind as you were just talking about the concept. And also what came to mind was I was recently um, on a call where there are several of us who basically we mentor doctoral students. And unfortunately, there were two people on the call that were talking about the difficulty that they were having with their chair. And apparently, this particular chair has rubbed a lot of students the wrong way. And something that came out in conversation was that this particular chair has a way of making things difficult because whatever reason, maybe I got mine now. I want to, I want to see how I can make it, difficult for other people. Or she has these expectations that are not being really understood by her students. And it just seemed, in particular, some of what came out was she's this way in particular with people of color. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but that's what came out in the conversation. And so that too makes me think about what you said. Why is it that you want to hold on to information? Why is it that you want to make things difficult? I understand making things challenging, but when you do things like withhold information or you make things in a way that people cannot, they're having a hard time being able to see why you're using those particular strategies or whatever you're doing. Why is it that people do that? So that's what came to mind too when you talked about your concept of lifting as we climb. So can you recount a story where you were in I would say, where mentorship or somebody helping you to get to the next level? Can you share a story where that mentorship was pivotal to your success?
Absolutely. And I will say that one of the main reasons why I believe what I believe is because someone did it for me. Right. So when someone does something like that for you, you, to me, the best way to pay it forward is to be that to someone else. So early on in my career, I was blessed. I had a lot of Black women in the organization I worked in that kind of took me under their wing and really sort of offered support, encouragement. One of them was like, get your master's degree. And I was like, girl, I don't want to go back to school. She was like, you will double your salary, do it. And I listened to her. That's the other thing too. You have to listen to people. Don't just be listening to everybody. And I think social media is where you kind of get confused listening to everybody. Listen to people that know what they're talking about. Listen to people who have a track record. I listened to her. She has her doctorate degree in epidemiology. I listened to her and went, and she was right. And then when I decided to go back for my doctorate, she said, absolutely. So I'm like, if auntie say go back, go back. But back to the story. So early on in my career in public health, I worked under a physician, Black woman. And she was so pivotal, gave me assignments that were sort of a little bit, more complicated than what my job was, put me in charge of things, showed me how to do things, told me to, sometimes there's those spoken rules at work, right? There's rules, but then there's those unspoken, like, listen, don't be telling everybody your business, or listen, you sit here and do this or do that. Really helped shape me into who I am today. She was actually a forward thinker, thinking about concepts that no one else in the whole workplace were thinking about. And we were just now talking about them like 10 years later. And I was like, we was talking about that 10 years ago. So really being under her showed me what leadership is. There was one incident where I actually kind of got in trouble. Like I was supposed to do something and I didn't do it. And she came in and she came at me a little hard. I was crying. But it also showed me that leaders and mentors don't always have to be your friend. They can also be those that will kind of correct you, kind of pull you back a little bit. Wait. I asked you to do this thing by this date. What happened? Like, so now what do I look like? As she said, as a leader, now what do I look like? Because my boss is asking me for the thing and you don't have the thing. And so, right. And so that taught me a really important lesson. But really being under her leadership was really pivotal for me, and shaped who I am today.
Great, great. As you're talking, it made me think of just going through. I remember some of my earlier days in the military, and I remember having a bunch of leaders that would always be in competition with one another. I remember a bunch of leaders that would not. It's like if you were somebody who already knew something, you were like, I guess you were great, but if you were somebody who wasn't, it's like you got talked bad about. I remember that, but I also remember when you started talking about somebody that came along. I remember specifically giving credit to this one NCO, non-commissioned officer is what NCO stands for. I still give her credit to this day for my educational journey because I can remember always wanting to go to school, always dreaming about going to school, but always I would just say I had a lot of reasons and a lot of excuses for why I wasn't going. And I just remember one day she was new, she didn't know who I was, but she walked into my office one day to introduce herself. And she asked me, was I in school? And I told her no. So she said, why, she had the attitude, the head shaking and the neck rolling and everything, right? When she said, why? And I said, because I don't have time. And so when I said that, I shouldn't have said that because she literally slapped me upside my head. Now, this person, she didn't know who I was, how I would react or anything, but she smacked me upside my head and she told me to get up out of my seat. So I got up, she navigated to a website. And then she got up and told me, now sit down and sign up for a class. I don't care if it's one. And so I still credit her to this day because, and I truly wish that I could remember her name, but I forgot. I'm hoping one day I'll remember it or she'll see me somewhere. But I credit her because from that day I signed up and I never stopped. And I'm pretty sure I know that it's because of that one thing that she did. It just started a whole ball rolling, and I didn't stop. And even though I didn't stop at my doctorate, and I don't think I have stopped. So I credit that as a story of somebody who was significant in my life. Now, as a personal mentor, um, I would say that I've had a lot of mentors through books and through books and through watching certain ministries on TV because that's where I learned a lot from. I can't I can't think of a person who really just took the time to really say, "Hey, this is what I see. This is what I believe." I can't think of anybody like that. So and don't get me wrong, I've had great people in my life who were examples of leaders, but I just mean somebody that really just took me on and said, "Hey, I'm going to show you this. I'm going to teach you this." I haven't really had that, and so I credit that to people. Like I'll say, one of my biggest leadership people to go to is John Maxwell.
Mm.
So I've read a lot of his books and I've learned a lot through things that he say. And not just him, but he's one of the main he's one of the main ones that I feel like that I've been mentored through a book.
Okay.
So yeah, that's pivotal to the things that I do today. So what I will ask you next is through those roles, like those mentorship or a mentorship role. Um, okay, I want to say, what challenges did you face? Like, um, what challenges did you face and how did you navigate those challenges? Like when
As
you
being
were
mentored.
as being mentored, or even if, let's say, you wanted to be mentored, but you didn't necessarily have a mentor, what kind of challenges did you face and how did you navigate it?
I think the biggest challenge when you are trying to navigate, and of course for me, this is mostly about professional life type stuff, because thankfully I have friends from my personal life and kind of mentored me through some things. But I think in this case, it kind of makes sense to stick to the work stuff. Um, I know for me, I had a lot of frustration because I often didn't understand why things were the way they were, because they seemed to be counter to what we were hoping to do in this particular organization. And the funny thing is that I'm saying this, I'm like, that's why my dissertation is what it was, because I think it was all that lived experience in the workspace. And of course, you bring yourself, your full self to work too, right? You can't separate that. I think ultimately it led into my dissertation because I'm like, wait, we're supposed to be about social justice, but then in practice, in the workspace, I'm seeing things that are directly counter to that, like anti social justice. Like this doesn't make sense. And so I remember having those frustrations with my, mentor, and she having to help me kind of guide me through it, or in some instances, literally standing up for me in the workspace. Like, well, why can't Nicole go to this community meeting and represent our workspace? She's being directly asked by the community because of the work that she's been doing. Why can't she do that? Right? Or, yes, let me give you permission to go to this really lucrative fellowship to learn about policy. No, no one else has ever done it. And yes, everyone is sounding like they're not going to give you permission, but I want you to be able to go. So let's figure out how to make that happen. So I think the mentor in this space, the physician that I was working under, was able to help me channel those frustrations, because a lot of times we come into specifically social justice work, government work, we come into it very, very passionate because we've either been impacted directly by, all the stuff that happens, unfortunately, to Black folks, or we see it. So we see poverty. We wonder, well, how come the grocery stores are all closed? How come we have all this fast food? So we see it and then we want to go and do the work. But when we get there, it's like, this isn't what I thought it was. And why is this happening this way? Or why am I not being able to promote, even though I have the skill set? And, so the mentor really helped navigate some of those challenges, because it's really easy to get frustrated, and just decide, well, either I'm going to quit or, figure out something else to do. But in that case, she was helpful in helping me figure out what my space and place was in this organization. If I'm going to stay here, this is what I'm going to need to do to survive it.
Good stuff. And it sounds like, you had some allyship going on because we need that as well. Somebody that can, when we do get frustrated and perhaps we don't know how we should navigate a challenge, that person comes along and they are voices and they're allies for us. Sometimes in rooms that we're not in, but also in rooms that we are in. We just feel like we can't speak up about whatever the subject is. So it's good that you had that person as not only as a mentor, but was willing to be an ally as well. So that's great. Let's see what I want to ask you next. I've got so many questions. So let's see. What specific measures can people undertake to assist? And I'm asking you this because a part of your bio was that you do a lot of work for underrepresented communities. So that's where this question comes from.
Okay.
What specific measures can people undertake to assist underrepresented communities?
First thing I tell people to do is think about what their skills are, what natural talents that they have, and just do that. Because I think a lot of times we feel like, oh, we got to go and raise $1 million, or we got to go do this huge, humongous thing, and we got to, make this whole, big difference. We got to run a marathon for charity. No, no. If you are the neighborhood chef and you love to cook, go get the little kids from down the street and hold cooking classes. That's it. Be in community with people. That is how you change the world. One person at a time, where you sit. You do not have to have a title or degrees after your name, even though degrees are great. I'm not saying degrees are bad. I'm saying you don't have to have that to be a leader. You can be a leader where you are right now. I like to do nails. Maybe there's a group of young girls in my neighborhood who I feel like they would, benefit from some connection and some, have somebody, Auntie Nicole, help them do something. Maybe I would invite them over with their parents' permission, and we would sit and I would teach them about nail care. And then in that we have conversations about, well, what's happening at school? How are you with your friends? How do you feel about yourself? You can do stuff like that without waiting for permission, without feeling like you have to do this huge thing. Another one I'll share with you. I one day decided I had seen someone else do these little pop up shops where the vendors would come and they would sell all their really cool stuff. And I was like, I want to do that. And I could have said, well, I don't know. That sounds difficult. Nope. I said, let me clear the backyard out. Let me call some of these vendors. I'm gonna only charge you $65. Come bring your stuff. I made flyers and I did it for a while, for like several years, because I wanted people in this neighborhood to know you have artists and creatives in your community. You ain't gotta go to Target to buy a Christmas gift. You spend your money with these people that live in your neighborhood that make quality products. Shop local, shop Black. You don't have to go to the department store. Everything you need is here. So that's also another example of trying to help underrepresented communities, trying to help yourself in some way, and trying to just really uplift everybody. So I always encourage and challenge people, don't think super, super big. Don't make it that hard. What do you like to do? And how can you just literally on your block make a difference in a small way? And that's it.
Excellent, excellent. That as you were talking about that, of course, I'm always thinking. So I was just thinking about some of the ideas that I had, and as you were talking about calling the different people to set up, I had always been thinking about, man, I want to do something in my backyard. I want to have like a cookout and invite people in the neighborhood. Excuse me, invite people in the neighborhood, or put up my big screen and have a movie night where people can come and just meet people in the neighborhood. Because these days there are people. I remember when I was small, you knew everybody in the neighborhood. You knew people around the block, up the street, around the corner. And it's like now you barely know the person who lived next door to you. And so
Right.
um, I think that is a huge divide, because we need this. We need, like you said, we need community involvement. And so
Yeah.
it came to mind as you were talking about that. Um,
Yep.
so, how does this community involvement contribute to bridging the cultural and generational divides?
Oh, shoot. That's how you fix it. That's literally how you fix it. You can't be so one of the things I'm always talk about, because I live in South Los Angeles, right? Literally, I can walk a couple blocks and I'm right where Nipsey Hussle's businesses were, and where Nipsey Hussle unfortunately lost his life. So I'm in South Los Angeles. I'm like, first of all, you can't be afraid of your own people. You can't be afraid to speak to people. You can't be afraid to have conversation with people and just say, hey, you'd be amazed what you learn from somebody. So you always have to be open. Now, I'm not saying be a fool. Don't go out here being dumb, but you have discernment. You can tell, oh yeah, how you doing? And people will share. Quick story, I was on the train going to work one day. This young lady was so proud of herself. She was going to one of the local community colleges, and I think she had either graduated or was about to graduate, or it might have been something as simple as she had passed her math class. Do you know, I talked to her that whole train ride. She was just so excited and proud that she had finished her math class. Didn't cost me nothing to sit there and engage with her and say, oh my goodness, oh wow, well, congratulations. You just never know who you will learn from, who will benefit from your words. Again, be discerning, don't be no fool, but be always open to conversation and to learning. And when you do that, I think that is what helps to bridge the gap, because you're talking to your neighbor who is 75. You're talking to the high school kids that are, you know how the high school kids, they don't speak much really, but hey, how you doing? How's school? A lot of times if you come at them that way, they will respond to you. So you just got to be really open. And I think people will sense that you're safe. I had someone that I met on LinkedIn, and he said, I wanted to take you to lunch. And I said, oh, okay. I was like, all right. And he was like, you just felt safe. And I had never had anyone say that to me. Like he said, you feel like a person that I could talk to. And I was really like, well, thank you. But you have to be open in order for that to happen. You can't be closed off. And I think, like you said, a lot of us are so in our homes, so quiet and silent that we're losing that ability to connect with people. And I think it's really important to try to reestablish that, especially in our neighborhoods, because we need each other. Because ain't nobody coming to save us. We need each other.
Exactly. I'm glad you said that. Because as you were talking, it made me think about, as you said, you were willing to be open, and you never know if you were the only person that that young lady had to really talk about her achievement. We just take for granted that, oh, she could have went home and told her mother, she could have went home. But what if she didn't have a home to go to? What if she went somewhere where she didn't feel like she was able to express or share an achievement? And you could have been that person that day that was, open enough to hear her excitement, hear her joy. And then also, not only that, but you know be able to receive it, and also be able to give her some inspiration to go for her next goal, for her next achievement. Whereas she could have gone to someone who wasn't excited, who, oh, okay, somebody that was just like, okay, whatever, I'm busy. But you was like, hey, I'm open to listen. And that makes me think about when I talk to mentorship in my organization. One of the key things I talk to people about is being able to connect. And I often ask people, raise your hand if you think you're a great communicator. And most people, they raise their hand because they think they're great communicators, right? We all do. And then I tell them, well, challenge you in that thought, because most of us know how to communicate, but we don't know how to connect with people. And so that's what I talk to people in my organization about, giving them techniques and strategies on how to connect with each other. And like you talked about, you were open, and that's a part of it. You got to be open, you got to be humble, and you got to be willing to talk to people about things that are important to them and not just what's important to you. And so when people come to me and they say, how can I connect to this person? I just don't get them. And I often tell them, I said, well, when I ask them, you have friends, right? You have family. I'm like, what do you do to stay connected to them? And they always tell me things like, well, we talk about sports, or we talk about this, or we talk about that. I said, exactly. I said, you find something that you can talk about with that person, and you have to be intentional. And when you find it, that's the connection, and that's how you connect. I said, but if you're going to be closed off or standoffish, you're never going to be able to establish a good workplace relationship with anybody. I mean, not just workplace, but when you're not in the workplace. So that's the key thing, is being open, being humble, and being willing to talk to people about things that are important to them, aspects of their life that are important to them, and not just what we want to talk about.
Right.
Anything?
Absolutely. And I think too, like you said, just be willing to listen to people too. Sometimes knowing when to just don't say nothing, let people talk, right? Because all of us want to be heard and feel like we are valuable. I think that's the other thing too. And I think that goes along with you saying about being humble. Don't ever walk in a space that you better than somebody. It's like, I'm here to learn and grow as well. And so a lot of times when I go into spaces like that, I learn something that I didn't expect to learn. I'm like, oh, dang, I didn't even realize, or I have a really, really cool conversation with someone that I wouldn't normally have had. So And I always go somewhere and come back. I done met somebody. One of my friends always tell me, you know everybody. And I'm like, no, I don't. And then it turns around that actually, yes. One of my friends was at a restaurant and said, I'm listening overhearing this lady talk about what she's going to do and XYZ. And I said, well, you should speak to her. Go talk to her. And she eventually did. Why did it turn out that that person that she overheard, I actually did know her? I was like, oh, you were talking to such and such? That's the lady that runs the da-da-da-da-da. She said, Nicole, I told you, you know everybody. It's insane how that happens to me. But yeah.
That's funny. That's funny. All right. So I'm going to ask you one more question before we go to our commercial break. What are some ways that we can get other people in the community to be mentors and allies?
I think
This
just like
space?
I feel like you just kind of have to just be encouraging to other people, and create opportunities for people to do it. So one of the things I had forgot to mention to you, so I used to do the pop-up shops, but I also used to do things like, hey, I'm really passionate about real estate. I asked my realtor, can we have a information session in the backyard? And he said, oh, okay, sure. And so he came back there and we had snacks and people came to listen to him teach. So I mean, I'm sure he teaches, anyway in his work on a daily basis, but he probably hadn't considered doing it in the way that I did it. So he became a mentor in that space in that moment. Sure, it gave him business. It was a business decision. But at the same time, I'm like, I put him in a space where he was able to kind of show up and do what he does naturally. Like I said, what do you do naturally? What comes natural to you that you can use to help other people? And I just said, let's go. And he said, okay. So sometimes if you have that spirit in you, you can kind of create a safe space for other people to also show up, and step up to become mentors and leaders, and people that are seen as safe. I think you muted. I can't hear you.
Sorry about that. I'm good now, right? All right. So thank you for your comments, Dr. Vick. All great stuff. I'm glad that those of you that are out there listening in, tuning in, I hope that you're gleaning something from this conversation about lifting as we climb with myself and Dr. Vick. We're going to take a little break. Don't you go away, because we still have quite a bit to talk about, and things are just going to get more and more exciting. So stay tuned. Presented by Dr. Timothy Felton and Teron Coleman, Black Boys Matter explore the vital role of parental presence in raising Black sons. As Black boys navigate persistent obstacles and challenges, fostering authentic, trusting, and nurturing relationships through positive engagement becomes crucial. Each chapter of this profound manuscript leaves readers with greater understanding and deliberate techniques for addressing the issues these young men face. Get your copy wherever books are sold. Dr. Candicia Randolph's book, The Black American Church, Leadership Dispensation and Challenges, critically examines leadership within the Black church, drawn from historical and anthropological perspectives. It identifies challenges faced by this vital institution in the Black American community and proposes practical solutions. The church's impact on Black culture and leadership is explored, emphasizing its historical context and influence over nearly 5 centuries. Through research and data, the manuscript aims to enhance the church's effectiveness and cultural relevance. Get your copy where books are sold today. Unlock a happier, more fulfilling life with Planned Maturity for Teens. Are your teens struggling with low self-esteem, feeling lost, or seeking practical advice to navigate their teenage years? Then look no further. Planned Maturity for Teens is more than just another self-help book. It's a comprehensive roadmap to a brighter future. This book offers insightful guidance and tools teenagers need to develop a positive mindset. Its practical advice and clear strategies helps teenagers build self-confidence and overcome adolescent challenges. The author draws on years of experience working with young people to provide real-life lessons and relatable and actionable advice. From reading this book, your team will gain a healthier self-image and techniques to cultivate and maintain self-esteem. They'll receive guidance on discovering and aligning with their values, and also envision a pathway to success, a clear and concise roadmap to personal growth and fulfillment. The author Marquise Trent brings his extensive experience to the table, offering teams the support they need to thrive. Plan Maturity for Teens is the ultimate guide to helping your team build a happier, more confident, and successful life. Get your copy today and help your team embark on a journey to planned maturity. All right. Welcome back. So, what can I say? I'm going to say this. When you think about, particularly in our community, I know you've heard the, let's say, crab in a barrel mentality, or let's say, I like to use the flea mentality. And I'm not sure if you heard of that one before, but it's basically about if you put a bunch of fleas in a cup and you put a lid on it, the fleas will keep hitting the top of the lid. And so when you pull that lid off, even though the lid is off, they will stay in the cup because they've programmed themselves that they can only go so higher. And you already know the crab in the barrel mentality. So I want you to say something about those those mentalities as it relates to what we're talking about, lifting as we climb.
Yeah. So I think, the whole crabs in the barrel mentality, we have to think about where it comes from, right? It comes from this idea of scarcity. And for a lot of us in the Black community, scarcity is a reality. It's not this weird concept. Like, we live in neighborhoods that are under resourced. We're all, scrambling for resources, and it's not an accident, it's on purpose. So a lot of times you really can't, I mean, to me, you really can't be mad at folks that have that mentality, because we understand, or I understand where it comes from. But I think when you get into a space of abundance, which can also, again, be hard to talk about abundance when you know that, especially from my perspective, that public health perspective, that social justice perspective, we know that Black people are oppressed, and have been since we've gotten here. Abundance can sound like, what are you talking about? But I think when you have an abundant spirit and understand that they're literally, for real, is everybody can have everything that they want, that the system is making it so that we don't, that are scarce. But if we try to reshape that thought process, we won't have a need for that crabs in the barrel mentality, right? Because if I believe in my heart that you will succeed and so will you, and it won't be at my expense, then we all can win. We all can work together, right? And so I think the idea of lifting as we climb, and mentorship, and being a support system will help to eliminate a lot of that. Now, the flea one to me sounds like, well, I don't know. I don't realize how high I can go because no one has shown me, or I haven't seen anyone do, this thing beyond. I think, again, mentorship helps with that, because, again, I sat with people that had doctorate degrees many years before I even thought about it, but I knew it was possible, right? And I'll even go further. My great grandmother, whose father and mother were enslaved, she said to me, "You're going to go to college, right?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Good, you'll be Dr. Vick." I was a child, right? So my great grandmother didn't know necessarily that there was anything beyond her frame of mind, but she knew enough to say to me at that young age that there is more for you, and that's what you will have if you want it. So I think mentorship, people pouring into you, having an abundance mindset, even though, like I said, I know some people have an issue with that, it's fair. The criticisms are fair, but if you believe that everybody can win, then that whole idea of crabs in a barrel goes away. Because then the idea becomes, well, how do we make sure that all of you win? And then that's where the mentorship and the leadership come in.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Now, gosh, this is one of those topics you can talk about for a while, right? And even as you talk about it, it kind of goes back to goes far back as those when our ancestors were enslaved and they had I think it was a certain season or a time period where they could let somebody go or let somebody go for free. And so what they would do sometimes is they would turn in each other, you know, like say things about the other to kind of get in good with the master.
Mm.
And so when that time came, they might have favor to go to be let go, which in a sense means to go higher. And
Yeah.
so I wonder if that has a lot to do with our mentality as well, because you know, and it's not just in the workplace, but in particular in the workplace, like you said, we tend to have that sort of mentality. Like when we get information, we don't want to release it to other people, especially if we feel like they are going to get something more than us, or if we're in competition with them. We don't want to release information, or we don't want to bring them into certain rooms or give them certain access or open them up to opportunities. So it's not just from other races, but in particular from our own. So it's just something that is beneficial to talk about in our own circles as well as outside of the circle. So this is a great topic to talk about. So what influence does a robust support network have on someone's personal and professional development or their pursuits?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So important. I've been blessed to have, so I've been blessed to have professional mentors in my workspace, but I've also been blessed to have a group of friends from a wide variety of backgrounds that have been really, really helpful to me. I remember one year, this must have been 2014, maybe 2016. I was like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. My friends came over with food and that big chart paper, and put it in my house, and they stuck it all on the wall, and they were like, okay, so what you want to do again? And they literally helped me chart out, like, okay, so you said you want to do this, well then you need to be thinking about this, and gave me next steps and stuff. And I believe I still have that chart paper in my house. So having those kinds of friends and having that kind of a support system can be so very instrumental in you meeting your goals, personally or professionally, and be a sounding board. Some of my friends, maybe I was teaching at a school for 5 years and I'm like, well, I got to stop now because I'm doing something else. Who I'm gonna tell? I'm gonna tell my friends, girl, you want this teaching job? Now, do they have to apply for the job? Yes, of course, and go in and interview and everything, but I'm calling my people. Or one of my friends went through a fellowship and she really enjoyed it. Nicole, you should sign up. Okay, and then I go through the process and sign up. So it's like we look out for each other in that way too, and I think that's really, really important. I can't hear you. I think you muted again. There you go.
Look, I can't stop laughing. So let me see. What have you? First of all, I imagine that you have mentored probably more than one person. So
Yes.
what are some challenges that you see? And I'm just talking about you as the mentor. What are some challenges are you seeing from people that you have mentored?
I think the biggest one is, unfortunately, people, especially in the workspace, they have had bad supervisors. People that should be mentoring them are not mentoring them. So they get into a workspace and they may be excited, motivated, engaged. They want to do the thing, and that supervisor literally is like, "Nope," and so they're wounded. They come into the space, when they get to me, they're wounded in some way, and I'm like, no, 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 that's not how this works over here. That is not my philosophy for mentorship or being a supervisor or a leader. When I mentor students, sometimes it's just really kind of helping them figure out which way to go. Sometimes that can be frustrating for them, and I'm trying to help them figure out what to do. But I could say I really haven't had any big issues or frustrations with mentoring, because I'm usually just really excited to share what I know with them. Um, Write letters of recommendation. I love that. I'll do that in a minute. Like, what you need? Where do I send it? And it's always rewarding to see them. I have one that I follow on LinkedIn. She was one of my undergrad students. Now she just posted that she's in Italy, and I'm like, "What you doing?" So I'm like nosy, like, "What's she doing in Italy?" But she's like leaps and bounds and just doing great things, and so it's always good to see that. But like I said, I do see sometimes they come in and they're wounded and they're like scared, like, "Oh, oh," and I'm like, "It's fine, calm down," but I have to like tell them it's okay, because when they're where they were before, maybe that person was micromanaging or was mean, but I'm like, "I ain't got time to be mean to you. I just need you to get this work done. How can I help you?" I had one woman I work with say to me, "I learned more about being a leader from you in 6 months than the last job I was at for X number of years." And I wasn't doing nothing but being myself, and modeling for her. And I told her, like I said earlier, I said, "You know how you thank me? You be that to somebody else. Period." That's it.
Exactly, paying it forward. Exactly. So one of the things that I found in my particular organization is the lack of leaders wanting to be mentored. Um, Many, I guess some of the reasons that I hear is I don't have time. That's probably the biggest one. I don't have time to be a mentor, or I don't want to be a mentor, or you can't talk to these people. Just those are some of the excuses, and I call them excuses. I think that they have points in what they're saying. However, I still consider those excuses. So, what do you say to leaders who give you those types of reasons of why they don't want to be a mentor?
Honestly, if they have that many sort of, well, XYZ, then it's not, that's all right, because I don't want you to mentor someone and you feel like this is a burden. It shouldn't feel that way. It is hard work, because now as a mentor, you have to spend time. And I understand, because sometimes you're like, it's easier for me to just either do it myself, or ask one of the employees to do it, than to have to show the intern. Because when you have an intern or someone you're mentoring, you got to show them how to do it and coach them. I get it. You might not have to feel like you have the time to go through all that, but I would much rather you know in your heart that you don't want to do that and you back out. Don't be mentoring these babies, and you gonna be mean to them. Don't do that, because then it's like it defeats the whole purpose. Because I'll say this: it should be fulfilling for that student or whoever you're mentoring, if it's an employee, but it also should be fulfilling to you. You should feel good, as well. So if you feel like, well, and there's all these kind of things, that's all right. We catch you on the next round. Mm-mm, mm-mm. That's all right. I don't want you talking to nobody. No, nope.
All right. So now, thank you for that, by the way. Thank you for that. I agree. If they don't want to be mentors, it may not be for you. I get it. But what about those people that perhaps it can be development or growth for them outside of their comfort zone? What about those people that they might feel like they don't want to do it, or feel like it may not be for them, but you see something in them that you believe this would be a great opportunity for them to grow as a leader? How do you address that?
Sure. I think in that space, then it would be a situation where they're mentored. Let me help you learn how to help other people. And there's skills, you got to learn how to listen. You got to, set some boundaries with people about how often are we going to meet? What are we going to talk about? What, is there goals? There's things that you can teach someone that's interested in mentoring. And so I would say in that space, well, then allow me to mentor you so that you can then be a mentor to someone else. It would be that sort of a process. There could also be a situation where you're co-mentoring. So maybe I, am working with you together with this particular person or group of people to mentor them, or just helping them to understand again, someone helped you, someone brought you along. So what better way to pay that back than to be that to someone else, right? So kind of helping them to remember the importance and significance of being that leader or that mentor for someone.
All right, all right. Dr. Vick is giving out gems on tonight. All right. So I think I'm gonna let me just I've got my list. I'm gonna choose one more question. Let's see. So how can we generate more opportunities for the voices of marginalized groups to be acknowledged and appreciated in our communities?
Oh, biggest one for me is, I know a lot of times we like to say, I'm speaking up for those who can't speak for themselves. And I get that, but I also feel like that is very patronizing. You need to maybe create a way for people to speak up for themselves. You don't need to be speaking for nobody. They can speak for themselves. Now, if you notice there's a barrier to that, then you be the person to create the way for them to speak, but don't be talking for people. Okay. We got to create a situation where people can say what they want and what they need, what they feel. And so I think that's the key. So, for example, we decide that young folks are marginalized, right? They don't have a lot of opportunity. They don't have jobs. They don't have things to do after school. Instead of us making decisions about what we think the kids want, we need to ask them, what would you like to see? Because oftentimes what we think is what we think they want is not what they want. I've worked in public health long enough to know that, what we think based on the data about a community, sure is, I'm not saying that's a lie. I'm not saying the data is a lie, but when you go into that neighborhood and say, what's wrong here? What help do you need? It may be very different than what you see in the statistics and the data. So my thing is, don't speak for people, create the pathway for people to speak for themselves, and listen to what they're saying. Even if what they say is you don't like it, I don't like that. Well, guess what? It ain't for you to like, but you need to listen, because then how are we going to hear and understand and react, provide help, resources, information if we're not listening? So I think that's the biggest thing, is to not speak for folks, to provide a venue for them to speak. And then when they say what they say, sometimes we be so quick. Well, that didn't happen to me. So, but that's okay. But that's what's happening to them. And so let's figure out how we can help them. Right. Um, I think that's the parting words for me. Listen to people.
Listen to people, and that's key to connecting and building relationships. Listen, I often tell people that we have two ears and one mouth for a reason, and so we have to learn how to be quiet, learn how to I like to say shut our pie holes and just listen to people. And we have to listen not only with our ears but also with our eyes. We have to notice the nonverbals, right? We have to be able to listen that way as well as with our ears. We have to learn how to hear and see what people are not saying, because a lot of times what we, like you said, what we think people are saying is not what they're saying. But if we don't have to have that ability to really, what I want to say, to really zoom in on those different things that they are not saying, the body language or certain things that they are saying. We won't know how to relate to them, or we won't know how to build that effective relationship with them, whether it's personal or professional. So I agree. We got to become better listeners, active listeners, and not just people who listen, uh, listen for certain things that we want to hear, but we throw everything else out the window. We got to be active listeners. So,
Yep.
this has been a great conversation about lifting as we climb. I wish we I wish we could go longer on this subject, because it is a much needed subject in our community, and just on in the workplace in general. It's much needed because, as I said, where I work at, everything you talked about, I can pretty much think of several scenarios where people are tired. People feel like they can't, move forward. They feel like they're being held back or they're being stagnant. In fact, I felt that way, and but I came in the door saying, "Hey, this is what I want to do. I understand that, for this position, this is the limit that I can go. So, hey, I'm just going to tell you right now that once I hit that limit, I'm telling you, I'm leaving." And that was what I said. I said I can't stay because I gotta move.
Yep.
I often tell people, I don't. How some people say shoot for the stars, um, shoot for the stars, and it's another one they say sky is the limit.
Mhm.
And I always tell people, sky is not the limit unless that's where you want to stop. So I'm always looking to climb wherever I am, wherever I go. So I think that this was a much needed conversation, and I hope those that are out there, I hope people view this and get something from it, and just not stop, just stop. One of the preacher I used to be under used to say, you can stop but you can't be stopped. And so I remember that. So I refuse to be stopped, and I'm not going to stop. I'm just going to keep on going. When I leave the earth, I want to leave the earth doing what God brought me here to do. So that's what I want to do. All right, Dr. Vick, thank you for being on Dr. Whitty today. Where can people find you outside of this platform?
I have a website, www.NicoleDvick.com. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram. I have a TikTok, but I haven't been on TikTok for a while. TikTok, I don't know. But my website is definitely the easiest place to find me, and LinkedIn for sure.
All right, you heard it from Dr. Vick. Also, I am also on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, and also TikTok. And like Dr. Vick said, I'm not always on there like everybody every day, but I'm on those platforms. I spend most of my time on YouTube and also on LinkedIn. So if you want to reach out to me, you can reach out to me at drwhitty@yahoo.com. I also have a website, drwhitty.org, if you want to learn more about me or request me. And I will just say that as we go off the air, if you get a chance to scan my QR code, and if you want to support the platform, that's the way to do it. I have a few Dr. Whitty products out there, some mugs, I think a mouse pad, a jersey, candles. If you want to support the platform, check out that QR code. And I just thank you for joining in. And thank my guest, Dr. Vick. Hopefully you won't make this your last time. This is the second to the last Dr. Whitty Today show for this season. I have one more show this season, which will air on my birthday. So our next show is on the 30th of this month. And we are going to have a couple guests that are going to come on and talk about uh, what they experienced during the Dr. Whitty Today show. And then I'm also going to try to have a conversation about the upcoming election. So we'll see how that goes. I'm going to try. I want to say I have three guests. 3 guests so far. So I'm going to be dropping the invitation out to everybody, and whoever says, hey, I'll do it, that'll be who gets on there. But it's going to be a special 2-hour show. The first hour, we're going to talk about some different topics that were on the DrWhitty Today show. And then the second hour, we're going to talk about what we want to happen in November. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Thank you so much, Dr. Vick. And just stay tuned for the after show. All right. All right. Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us on DrWhitty Today. We appreciate your time, and your viewership is the heartbeat of our show. If you enjoyed this episode, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and most importantly, subscribe. Your support keeps us going, and we can't wait to have you back. So hit the notification bell to find out each time we air live. Until then, stay curious, stay inspired, stay motivated, and stay tuned.